Welcome to today's episode of the Voicefluencer Show, featuring Celene Osiecka. She is one of the Voicefluencers that will be joining us on The Voice Den today, September 29th at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can join us there at thevoiceden.com. She's an incredible conversation designer, and I'm so excited to be able to learn a little bit more about her and introduce her to you as well. So without any further delay, let's get right into the interview here with Celene. Hi, Celene. How are you doing?
Hello. Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for joining me and for joining the audience here to chat for a few minutes.
That's great. I'm excited to be here.
Amazing. Well, I am really, really thrilled to be able to have you as one of the Voicefluencers, and you're here because you've got so much experience with voice design and VUX, etc., VUI, whatever terms you want to use. Before we get into all of that, though, maybe we can ask you a little bit about your intro and what's kind of your story. How did you get into what you're doing, and a little bit about your background?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So this was one of my careers right out of school. I've always been interested in artificial intelligence and chatbots and things like that. So I started working at a company a very small startup company that was doing just chatbots before they were known as chatbots, really. So having, natural language and machine learning and AI all coupled in something that was automating things that humans were doing. So I got into that pretty early, and then got into a company that was acquired. That company was acquired by a larger company that started to do everything AI. So we started to get into not just chatbots, but we were into the voice side as well too. We have a lot of IVRs and things like that. So it became. Then that's when I think conversation design became a thing. It actually was a branded term. That was a couple years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago now. So then I kind of fell into doing umbrella, conversation design of all things, of digital and on the voice side. So yeah.
Great. And so tell us a little about the company you're with now and the type of work that you're doing with the company. And maybe, if possible, maybe you can even tell us about some of the projects or interesting things that you've done with the company.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we work mostly with enterprise clients. So a lot of these clients have, call centers and a lot of human agents. But we also deal with smaller companies as well, things like higher education institutions, things like that. But basically our job is we're trying to bring in AI to a lot of different elements into their business. So, how can we take the not interesting side of the human's job, right? The dullness, the tedium, the high cost that it shouldn't be, right? And bring that into an automation experience, either through voice or digital, and automate that experience. So then their agents and, there can be cost savings and of just a better fulfilling life for the humans that used to be, doing those things. So so that's our goal, is to try to, that's our team's goal anyway, is to try to automate and contain a lot of that that would have typically gone to a human. And some of the projects that I've been working on. So recently we've been working with a really a large telco out of the US, and we have I would say anywhere from, I think, around 200 intents or so in that example. So really successful. We brought a lot of success to that implementation around containment and lower their repeat rates, increasing their efficiencies for their agents, all things like that. So we've driven that really successfully. So yeah, that's kind of our goal, is to, we meet KPIs of our clients and we try to make the best experience while usually putting some type of automation experience in front of what they have today.
That's great. So if I'm understanding you correctly, it's not only voice that your company is working on. It's various types of automation that are leveraging artificial intelligence. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. And what we try to do too is what we're noticing is there's a lot of similarities between, let's say, a chatbot flow and a voice flow. So we're trying, the more omni-channel the experience we can make it, the better for the customer, because they can switch between channels. They can have a consistent experience. If they call and then chat, they're not going to get two different experiences. So we try to make the flows as omni-channel as possible so they can jump between. So for example, if you come in and you say, how do I reset my password? You should get a generally same experience across both channels. The flow might be the same. You might have some nuances, but generally it's going to be the same. So we do voice and digital, and I would say it's more of a holistic experience than one or the other. That's the goal, if we're trying to kind of create once and then deploy many.
That's great. I'm curious, how have you seen the the attitudes change from the clients with regards specifically to voice over the last like 5-6 years since you've been there? Have you seen a big change? And if so, like what has that been?
Um, yeah, it's interesting because I mean, I would say in conversation design, voice has been around for a very long time through IVRs, right? It's a very old, I mean, it's old and a lot of times antiquated, right? The technology that we deal with is just we're trying to update it as much as we can to make it a better experience, more similar to, the Googles and the Siris and things like that, right? That's what people want. They want natural language. They want that. So that's what clients I think are really asking for now is they want an updated, more new age voice experience, because voice isn't ever going away. I'm always going to be driving down the road and I'm like, oh, I have to call that company, pay that bill. I forgot I have to call, right? I'm not going to text as I'm driving. So, and as a mom, I always, sometimes it's easier just to call instead of having to wait to chat, right, for somebody. So I can see, voice is always going to be there. It's just, how can we make it more user friendly and not, it's not have that IVR where you're wanting to press 000 because it's not going to work, right? You want to have that automated experience in that IVR. So that's what our goal is for our clients, and our driving mission is for them for voice.
And so I guess, like, I'm assuming with the prevalence now of the Amazon devices, the Google devices, when people come to you and they talk about voice, is that sort of what they have in mind now? Is that sort of what you were getting at, that they see these very natural type processes and that's what they're looking for?
Exactly. Yes. I mean, definitely gone are the days of press 1 for this and press 2 for that. That's way, no one has time for that. But even so much so, guiding you through a flow, people don't really want that either. Say you were booking a flight and you don't really want the experience of where are you going, where are you coming from, where are you going, when are you flying, what, all those things, each step-by-step process. I don't want to have to fill out a whole menu form for you. I just want to tell you, I want a flight tomorrow, sometime in the morning from LA to New York, with a direct flight. I want to say all those things, and I want to have the system understand it in one utterance. So I don't have to fill out a 20-minute form, technical voice form, right? If you think of it that way. So yeah, it's past, there's a lot of those outdated technologies, where they really just want you to say something in natural language. It picks up all those entities and then it just processes it. So that's really, talk to it more like a human is really what we're trying to do. Have it as human-like as possible for the things that the technology can support today.
What sort of technologies do you, like with your company, then use sort of that behind the scene to guide that natural language? Are you using things like Google technologies that are out there, or do you have more sort of proprietary stuff, or what are you doing when clients come to you?
Yeah, we have most of our tech is proprietary. We are using things like TensorFlow and things like that tie into our technology somewhat. But yeah, for the most part, a lot of our what we build on today is a product called Engagement Cloud. So it has an FAQ designer tool. It has a journey design tool that has all the you can integrate APIs and entities all in that. It lets you design cards. It lets you integrate all your chat and your agents into it. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop of most of our tech. But yeah, we do have some third party in there, but most of it is home built.
That's great. Where do you think this is going? Say, if you think like 5 years, 10 years out, are we going to just be able to have these truly natural conversations where it's almost like you don't realize you're talking to an AI type agent? Or what's your vision of the future, I suppose, is the question.
Yeah, it's almost an ethical debate too, because everyone talks about the Google, was it Duo, right? Duplex. So when that came out, they tuned it, very heavily tuned it, but it was indistinguishable. And so I think that it's almost possible today, right? Even now we're dealing in we're using, that's another third parties. We're dealing with Microsoft Azure for their TTS voices, and once you tweak them, they're pretty close. You can still tell, but I would say it's like 90% of the way there. So yeah, so I think it's really close. Now, but then the question is, should we, just because you can, does that mean we should, do we need to always call out that you are talking to a bot, just so even if it's not a sales use case, if it's still a service use case, should we always let people know that it's a bot? And what I find is right now we do let them know, because the technology kind of mandates that we do. Because if we don't let them know, it kind of, they'll say these life story utterances and we won't understand what they're talking about. But eventually, when it becomes smarter, I still think, from an ethics perspective, we'll still want to distinguish, even if it is from a technology point, indistinguishable, we still want to call it out that it is.
That's great. I know that you and your company are always looking to hire great people on your team as well. And now having heard a little bit about what it is, I'd love for you to maybe just share a little about what you're looking for so that if somebody's listening to this and they're interested in what you've been saying, they have an idea of what's going on in that area.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. So, we have a lot of clients now that we're just, when we onboard new clients, we're looking to, maybe, a little bit now, but then always down the road too, looking to always expand our team and have great people join. So we kind of have two roles. They're all conversation design roles, but some just have more of a focus. So one of the roles is more of a product owner focus. So really focus on deploying new technology. So, working with our developers, the client directly, working with our practice leads to create new solutions and design new solutions and implement them. And then after, we really focus on optimization as well too. We don't want to let these things just be deployed and then no one takes care of them, right? We really want to make sure that they're actually doing well, that they're meeting the KPIs that we've established with the client. So we have a team that's focused on optimization as well, that looks at, on a regular cadence, how is this client doing? How is it performing? How can we make it better? Can we make new intents? Can we fix existing models? So a team that's kind of more focused on that, both doing conversation design, but in different ways. So so that's kind of the two main roles we're always looking for. So yeah.
And where could people go if they wanted to learn more about that in terms of the rules? What would be the best place to reach
out? So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. We also have an active post right now for a product owner role. I can maybe send that to you and we can distribute that after. That's on just LinkedIn. But feel free to reach out to me and I can always point you to the page. I think it's also on our career page as well too, on our 247.ai website as well too.
That's great. I'd love to end with a couple of fun questions if we can as well. This one's really timely. Yesterday was this Amazon announcement of a robot, Astro.
Yes, I had a colleague work on that. It was her little baby. So yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, wow, that's a whole new area of interacting with a person. I know you're very keen on human and technology interaction. So I'd just love to hear, I was blown away by that. What are your initial thoughts on that? Or maybe you had an inkling before from your colleague, or maybe not. But what are your thoughts on the robot and the idea of having that in the home?
Yeah, we've had these things in our home for a long time, right? We've had Siri, we've had Echoes and things like that. So this is now a functional being where it moves and looks not human like. They designed it to be more of like a dog, I think, right? It doesn't look like so I think that that's going to change how we perceive it, right? If it was those things and what was it, iRobot, right, where you have those actual humanoid figures, I think you deal with it a lot differently. You might have more empathy or concern, or should I talk about this in front of the robot, right? But when you have something like a pet, it kind of looks like, I think it's going to just have a different attitude as you interact with it. I'll be really interested how people actually do interact with it, how they treat it. But to me, I have the same, looking at it, it would be like a puppy where you could ask it to do things and it could go fetch things for you, things like that. But yeah, it's an interesting how because for the Series and the Echoes, they don't have a form, right? So you don't think of them as this presence in your house. You think of them only when you need something, but now you see this presence in your house. So I think that might change also too. Maybe people will be more engaged with it because they're going to see this thing with eyes and, can move on its own. So yeah, that might mean just more engagement and different types of requests to it too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way, and the way you articulated that it looks more like a pet than a human, and that makes sense now.
I thought it did. Yeah, maybe others, but it's definitely not humanoid.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's fascinating, yeah. and I agree with you. I think that will change the way people interact with it. That's really, really interesting perspective. That's awesome. And the other thing I want to just finish up with is, like I said, I'm really thrilled that you're joining us for the Voice Stand today. And everybody there's got a sort of a stage name, and you're the Automator. So I'm curious, where did you come up with that, and what's the deal behind that?
Yeah, I had a couple names going, and I was like, I'll pick this one because I think it explains what we are trying to do and what our goal is. But yeah, it's really to, like we said, I was mentioning before, automate as much of the process as possible, right? So, not everything, because again, the technology is not there. Some things humans are just better at, right? But my goal is to identify what the bots can do best, and then automate that as much as possible through, even if it's an FAQ. You know, we see a lot of cases where people just have a question. You're filling out a quote for an insurance form. You know, what does this mean? You know, things like that. So even when it comes to questions, but then when it comes to the fully, you know, completely self-serve journey, where the airline example I mentioned, right? You know, fully automating that so it doesn't have to go to an agent. That's kind of our mission. So yeah, I thought it was appropriate for what we're trying to do.
Love it. That's great. And then the very last question, you know, obviously people are going to be able to come on the show and ask you questions, and I have a good sense of your expertise, and I think people do now from hearing you and seeing you speak about this. But what are the kind of questions that you like to get asked, so that you have an opportunity to talk about? Like, or if you could, like, kind of, you know, almost direct the questions that you were to get, what kind of questions would you like to get?
That's interesting. Never been asked that question before, so that's a cool one. But yeah, I think it's I can provide a lot of advice and how-tos and things, you know, what we've done, what the lessons we've learned, what has worked, what hasn't worked in the past, you know, just any examples I can give, hopefully bring light to, you know, instead of talking in theories, which is sometimes difficult, but I like to talk a lot about kind of the accomplishments our team has done, and, you know, just what we've succeeded in and how we've done that. So, you know, that's always good to talk about. But yeah, and then just if people are interested in, you know, of how do I get into this? You know, what background do you need? What skill set do you need? All those things I can help with, because yeah, basically we've grown a team. I've grown a number of teams in the past, but grown this team now, so I can kind of help of where, you know, what kind of background our team has, and, you know, where they got started, and what some of their, you know, passions and all those things. Anybody that's just interested in getting their foot in the door too.
Well, that's great, and so that's wonderful. We're gonna get lots of those questions, I'm sure. I want to thank you, Celene. Thank you for spending some time with us. Where can people go to learn more about you, or otherwise connect with you or your company, or any other resources or links that you'd like to share? Where would you suggest people go?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I think on my LinkedIn profile, you can just go to LinkedIn and then / I think it's just Celene Osiecka is my URL. So feel free to look me up there. And also our website is 247.ai. So yeah, you can take a look at what our company does and what some careers we have there, and just what we try to focus on for our clients too.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Celene, for being part of this. And I'm looking really forward to chatting with you again later on today with everybody else.
Yeah, me too. It'll be fun. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. So everyone, don't forget to tune in today, September 29th, 5 p.m. Pacific. The Voice Stand, thanks to the sponsorship of Amazon, Alexa, and Google Assistant, it's entirely covered. And so I encourage you to join us, have a chance to speak with Celene, the Automator, along with the other influencers, and then we can also hang out in the after party as well. So see you all later. Thanks again, Celene. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.